Plus starts now.
Good morning, and thanks for watching ANF Plus. I'm Atlanta News First anchor Rick Fulbaum, along with my colleague Sierra Cummings, who's a member of our ANF Investigates team. Sierra, good to talk to you today.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so we are going to be talking about a bill. This is a piece of legislation that is right now being considered by lawmakers under the Gold Dome here at the Capitol building in Atlanta. This is a House bill that is being proposed. It has not yet passed, but it has major ramifications and would if it were to pass. And it really could impact the way that we deliver information to our viewers, not just here at Atlanta News First, but any journalist at any organization here in the state of Georgia. And so Sierra is here to help us break this down. And we're talking, Sierra, about HB 1223. Let's just explain very briefly what this is. It proposes amending Georgia law to exempt law enforcement audio and video recordings that depict a person's death or distress prior to death from public disclosure. So it's a brief description. Let's dig into that, though. What are we talking about here, Sierra?
As you mentioned, I'm on our investigative reporting team. So that's my official title. But I had a manager tell me a few years ago, all good reporters are investigative reporters. Whether it's title or not, it just means that we dig. And a huge part of our digging is getting police records. And the one of the most profound and compelling pieces of evidence in a case often involve video and audio, body camera, 911 calls, dash cam, audio transmissions, officers speaking to dispatch, dispatchers speaking to officers, officers speaking to each other. And it's been a huge way for us to hold people accountable and for families to get justice. As you just gave that brief description, I want to go a little deeper into this bill because we were talking about it at our morning editorial meeting, and there were some discussions about how it would restrict the journalism aspect of this. But as you mentioned, this affects the entire public. And a byproduct of that is restricting what the media is able to get. But you at home, like everyone has rights to public documents. When something is considered a public record. Yes, reporters often request it, photographers request it, newsrooms request it, but you, a regular person at home, your mom, your lawyer, your friend, if it is a public document, you have the right to access it as a member of the public. So this proposal, should it pass, it would affect all of us. Um, just
I just want to jump in here for a minute. We're talking about Freedom of Information Act. So that is a FOIA is the federal version of that. Of course, our state, Georgia, has its own version of it, and it's changing that. Basically, that is being discussed right now, changing the ability of members of the media, members of the public, from gaining access to information that would hold. In this case, police accountable. It would also prevent the media from being able to clear police who are acting in the right way. So, okay, I'm sorry to jump
No,
in there,
exactly right. That
but go ahead.
federal level, thanks for clarification for you. At the state level, each state calls it something different, but here in Georgia, it is called a Georgia Open Records Request. And for shorthand, we call it an ORR. Reporters do ORRs, but regular people can do it. And basically, when there is a case that you're interested in, whether you're involved firsthand or you're just interested in, you're nosy or you're a reporter trying to help someone out on a story, you can file a request that cites state law, state code, say, under Georgia Open Records law, I am entitled to X document, X piece of video, X piece of audio for reviewing, for receiving, and should it cost money for you to get this documentation to me, you should let me know how much it's going to cost, and I will accept those charges and decide whether I'm going to pay for the document, the footage, the audio, and all of that. That entire process is called the Open Records Request Process, or OR.
And how often do you have to utilize this in your line of work?
We do it every day, multiple times a day, just to streamline some of our workload. We kind of coined the term FOIA Fridays. So often when we're on a Friday where there might be a little more flexibility in our schedule, we could spend hours submitting open records requests at the state level to Georgia public agencies, whether that's Atlanta Police Department, your local police department, school districts, the entire education system, your city council, Or sometimes we submit FOIA to the federal government, Department of Homeland Security. I mean, so many different agencies. As long as it's a public agency at the state or federal level, we will often spend a bulk of our Friday submitting those requests. And it's crucial to our storytelling because as an investigative reporter, you want to go beyond he said, she said. You want to be able to have evidence what actually happened in that moment. And that video and that audio is going to show you exactly what's happening in that moment. I want to read a portion of HB 1223. And just as you mentioned, it would restrict the release of the audio and video in a situation where someone dies or if it just involves a death, it's like right up until the point that they die, when there is no pending investigation, and such disclosure would be an invasion of personal privacy. That seems really subjective, right? Personal privacy. Sometimes I do think it's important to add to the conversation. People have the right to dignity, right? And so there's that conversation of at least supporters of this, if someone's passing away, do we want their final moments to be out in the public? And so that's that conversation about personal privacy.
Right.
But as we're saying as journalists here, sometimes those moments, even though they're awful, they're compelling to the story. And if an officer has acted improper or unjustly, we need portions of that video and audio. Here's just some context though.
Yep.
Since I submit open records requests and employers all the time, I just want to be clear here. Already, if there is an investigation happen, okay, say something happens to you, you're on the side of the road in a traffic stop, you feel like you were wrongfully arrested. Police say they correctly arrested you, and now it's going to an investigation because there's so many different allegations here. Should I have been arrested? Do I deserve that charge that's against me? Did I wrongfully get a citation? It's at the investigative level now. In the state of Georgia, under open records law, when there is a pending investigation, the public and the media already don't have the right to obtain documents and video and audio related to that.
Okay.
Agencies have the right to reject our public records request. They can say, because is an investigation, no matter the extent of the investigation, somebody could have passed away. It could just be an ongoing case and no one's passed away. It could be a case that's really just all about documentation and no physical harm. But agencies already have the right to not give us that information because it's a pending investigation. So you can't make the claim that this is the wild west. There are protections already in place when an investigation is active. Public agencies don't have to release anything. So this bill is totally separate. It's saying in any case involving a death or just right up to the death, we wouldn't release uh, that footage. And you were here, Rick. We have so many examples where we could actually speak to how that footage and that evidence played a crucial role. Rayshard Brooks.
Right. So let's talk about this. And this is a practical example of how these record requests are able to really shine a light. And that's what this is all about. That's what journalists are always trying to do, which is shine a light. We have this police body camera footage, which, of course, is going to depict a terrible situation where a man was shot and killed. This took place back during the summer of 2020 when there was civil unrest, of course, and all over the country, including here in Atlanta. You remember this story of Rayshard Brooks, who was involved in a confrontation with police in the parking lot of a Wendy's restaurant. And again, it's because of the law that we were able to get our hands on this footage, as was every other news organization. And it really tells the story in a way that we would not have been able to tell otherwise. And you can see this confrontation and how it escalates, and of course, how it ends as Brooks is running away and the officer opens fire. Rayshard Brooks died. And after this incident, we should say the police chief had to resign, and the police officer who was involved in the case was fired, although he was later cleared
And reinstated.
and reinstated. And so, again, it works both ways. The video can help to uncover any wrongdoing. It can also help to illuminate when police officers work and operate and function in a lawful manner. So it can clear them as well. And so, okay, just wanted to talk about that because that's a very important example here, and it illustrates why it is that having access to this information, this video and audio information, is so crucial to the work of journalists.
Just to add color to that, so let's take a step back here if that law would have been in effect at the time. So back in 2020, when this incident goes down, because I've already mentioned the protections that are already in place for public agencies when there is an investigation, this incident happens, and the law already, from the moment that incident happens, there is an investigation. So now it's at that investigative level. State law already allows APD, whoever is involved, the district attorney, any public agency, it allows them to withhold that evidence and that footage because now there is a pending.
Active investigation.
But there are exemptions if you feel like, and as a journalist or a member of the public, you can fight for an exemption and say, hey, I feel like the disclosure of these records, the disclosure of this video and this audio is so compelling, it affects public safety. And that's often how journalists, make the case that if, even though there is a pending investigation, we think this is crucial to our reporting. We think this is crucial to the public
The
conversation.
public's right to know.
Oftentimes, police agencies will then review with their own attorneys in house and then they'll release that footage. But if this law were in effect at the time, they don't even have to give us the footage, or not just us, but anyone in the public. They wouldn't have to give us that footage at any point because now the law says a death was involved. And so we don't have to share a Thank you very much. You have his join break. Oh.
Okay, we're going to take a little behind the scenes here.
Right.
Sierra and I are going to share this microphone as we continue this conversation here, this important conversation. Um, all right, I want to just mention here because the sponsor of this bill is a representative from Dallas, Georgia, Joseph Gullett, and his goal, as he states, is to protect the dignity of the deceased and to prevent profiteers from monetizing graphic death videos on social media. The argument here is that these videos are taken by not just members of the media who are trying to do actual reporting, but by anyone, for that matter, who could then post it onto YouTube or any website and then potentially profit, make money off of it. And the bill's sponsor says that that is what he is trying to keep from happening. Although there are these sort of this ripple effect that perhaps is not intended, but could potentially have a major impact. Would have a major impact were it to pass in its current form. This is a bill. Once again, it's House Bill 1223 being considered by the House Judiciary Committee here in the State House here in Atlanta. It is a bill that was proposed. It was brought up on Monday. It was not brought to a vote. Some amendments were voted on Monday, but there was no change to the language. And organizations that represent journalists are trying to get lawmakers to agree to an amendment that would create an exception
For the media.
for the media. So that's where we stand, and we wanted to talk about this because again, it really is very crucial to the role of journalists and as us as those of us who do this to try to shed light on events that are important to the public, and also to keep those who are in a public position to keep them accountable. Without this information, without this video, without this audio, we would not be able to do that.
Yeah, and just you were talking about the language of this proposal. There are some exceptions as the bill sits right now. This is not law, but that proposal, and I think what the sponsor is saying, we want to make sure it's comprehensive enough so that if somebody does need the video and the audio, there are exceptions and when they can get it should this bill pass. And I just want to give a couple of the exceptions that it says in this proposal. So the video or the audio would be released if a death is involved, if it's to a duly appointed representative to a deceased person's estate, a parent or legal guardian of a minor depicted or heard on such recording, so they would be able to obtain it, an accused criminal when in good faith they believe such recording is relevant to their criminal proceeding, a party to a civil action. So if you're suing the police agency or somebody you feel like has behaved unjustly toward you, and then any of your attorneys. So those are all the exceptions that they've written into this bill. And so they feel like that is comprehensive enough that it doesn't intrude on accountability. But like you said, there are many groups fighting against this and wanting some more discussion at the state level before this moves forward at any point. We've got another example. You may remember I did a whole series on ambulance delays in DeKalb County, Brookhaven, and I've got a story I want to show you because this really just highlights the sensitivity of of police and ambulance delays. So we had gotten a lot of tips about AMR ambulances, that's the EMS provider in DeKalb County, being slow to respond for 911 calls. And when you need 911, every single second counts. So we wanted to look further into this. Yes, we were able to obtain data. Yes, we were able to get interviews and talk to city council people and those affected. But we wanted to see actual cases where life hung on the line to really show how this is something that needs to be handled by people in power. And so there's a story of Steve Christensen, and I want to warn you, this story does discuss mental health issues. But in this story, you'll see that he's begging to be helped and begging to be saved. And there is an officer there who has called EMS multiple times and EMS is not responding. But that officer's body cam is keeping track of that entire incident. And ultimately, Steve Christensen passed away. The ambulance didn't get there. It took a while. But that video we were able to obtain because a law like this wasn't on the book. So I want to play you that story.
You're dying? Yeah. Can't I just me, okay? Go ahead and start AMR to Blackburn Park. Just relax, stay in the car. Is your chest hurting? Hang tight, hang in there, okay? Got help coming.
A Brookhaven officer responds to a shots fired call March 2023. This is police redacted body camera footage.
Have you been shot? Have you been shot?
Within moments on scene, the officer confirmed the reported shooter and the victim were the same person. Self-inflicted and intentional. Steve Christian was dealing with cognitive memory loss. According to the letter he left behind, the diagnosis made the 77-year-old veteran want to die by suicide. Despite that letter and what happened before, interactions on this footage seemingly indicate Steve now wants to live after all.
You're all right. It's okay. It's okay. We're here to help you, okay? Lift up. Lift up.
In case files obtained by Atlanta News First Investigates, crews detailed Steve begging for help.
Help me up.
Although Brookhaven police blurred and silenced graphic portions of this footage, you can hear many of Steve's cries over and over. At this point, 15 minutes have passed from when the first officer arrived and called for an ambulance. Now, 18 minutes in.
Let's go ahead and get an ETA. We're going to need to step this up.
The rain picks up as police say time runs out.
Can't believe this.
20 minutes on scene. 22 minutes in, the cab fire arrives as backup. The fire truck is not capable of emergency transport, so crews still need an actual ambulance. Late now. 26 minutes from when the first officer came on scene and called for help, ambulance help finally arrives. Steve Christian died at the hospital. Watching this
It's not any easier
is difficult for Brookhaven Police Chief Brandon Gurley.
asking for help over and over and over again. But what this individual, the help this individual was in need of was an operating room. And that help didn't arrive in time.
That 26-minute wait for an ambulance is more than double the county EMS standard of 12 minutes for life-threatening calls, a standard American Medical Response, or AMR, agreed to when the company signed this DeKalb County contract. Has something gotten better?
No. It's a weekly, almost daily occurrence that we're going to be waiting. Our officers are going to be on scene waiting.
Atlanta News First investigates analyze City of Brookhaven records from the last 4 years. Data shows 90% of AMR's response time for life threatening calls increased from 16 minutes in 2020 to 21 minutes so far this year. Records show in some cases, police decided to drive the victim to the hospital themselves in their own police car because of the delayed ambulance. Police cars not at all equipped for that.
We don't have stretchers. We don't have IVs. We don't have ways to administer medications and route to hospitals. We don't have an area big enough in our car.
Okay, and we're back now on Sierra. That story, you did that story a couple of years ago, and it was because we had the ability to request that video that you were able to shed light on these long wait times that put people's lives at risk in some cases.
Yeah, and ultimately affect change. So I know we're often in a circumstance like this, we're thinking about police wrongdoing, but this footage helped highlight an issue of public safety, EMS. And this is one of the many cases I use in my series reporting on EMS delays in DeKalb County that made its way all the way up to state level Department of Public Health, which is the agency that oversees EMS and ambulance delays. And they had a task force studying some issues going on in DeKalb County, and cases like this really help affect change. So AMR had to undergo a new contract with DeKalb County and change, adhere to some new stricter standards.
In case you're just joining us on this stream, you're watching ANF Plus, Sierra Cummings. I'm Rick Fulbaum, and we're talking about a bill that is currently being considered by legislators here in the state capitol in Atlanta. It's House Bill 1223. And let me once again just sort of summarize what this bill is proposing. Again, this is a bill that is being considered. It has not yet passed. There have been some amendments that have passed, but it has not yet passed. But the bill proposes amending Georgia law to exempt law enforcement audio and video recordings that depict a person's death or distress prior to death from public disclosure. So this is very specific,
Mm-hmm.
but very important
Very
because it's
important.
these videos that can sometimes shed light and uncover wrongdoing, problems that can be solved, that can potentially be life-saving for other people. And if the media is not able to get its hands on this video, the ability to shed light on, for example, the story that we just watched,
Mm-hmm.
you would not have been able to do that.
Right, the media, but also the public. The argument here is that anything that restricts transparency, why is it happening? As journalists, we believe anytime we shed light on darkness, there is a level of justice that can happen. And for if you're experiencing this firsthand in your community, your neighbor, your parent, your loved one, you want to be able to access the things that can exonerate your loved one, allow them to rest peacefully, really bring justice to your case. And so we understand in someone's final moments, there should be a level of dignity. You don't want to exploit that. And I think
Of
that's
course.
what the sponsor, he's saying that's his goal. When someone is in their final seconds of their life, we don't want to see that play out on YouTube, on TikTok, just for clicks and clickbait.
We understand that.
We understand that part, and I think there are many respectable journalists, not just in Georgia, but beyond Georgia and Metro Atlanta, that understand that part. But often what's happening here is that we're giving a voice to the voiceless, and we are holding powerful people accountable should something have gone wrong in the final moments of someone's life. And here's the irony in all of this. Oftentimes, body camera and audio, it's not extremely crucial in a minimum level case where there hasn't been some extreme injury or death. But when there actually has been extreme injury or death, that's actually the moment where we need the body
The
camera and
most.
the audio the most. And so that's concerning to not just journalists, but people who feel that lawmakers and law enforcement agencies and public agencies as a whole must be accountable to the public.
And again, I think it's important to stress that it works both ways.
Mhm.
That the video, the audio that is currently under discussion to be restricted from the public is something is evidence uh, that could illustrate that someone did something correctly. The ambulance company, for example, that they did arrive in a timely manner. A police officer involved in some type of a shooting with a suspect who dies, that officer may have done it exactly by the book. And it's the video and the audio from that officer's body camera or from the colleague of one of those officers that could clear the officer's name. So it really does work
It
both
does.
ways.
And just aerial view, the whole point originally for body camera, people were fighting for clarity. They wanted to be able to verify what's actually happening when law enforcement or a public official is involved in arresting someone or in investigating or responding to a call. So it seems like the pendulum swung one way and opponents are arguing it might be swinging too far the other way. Body cam, the introduction of body camera was that transparency and to potentially hold law enforcement agencies accountable. And so then if you restrict the body cam,
Right.
we put it in place for a reason. There is funding at the state and local level for a reason so that law enforcement officers can roll on that body camera and that we can access that footage. So then it kind of begs the question, well, if all that footage exists and then the public can't see it, what's the point of the body cam in the first
Correct.
place?
Okay, so we have news media obviously very interested in this, victims advocate groups very interested in this, the ACLU also very interested in this, all against these restrictions that are being proposed. And again, right now it is just a proposal. This is a
Right now.
bill that has not passed through its committee. It has not been brought to a full vote in the House. This is the amendment process that is going on right now. Sort of, how the sausage is made. Lawmakers on the Judiciary Committee are discussing the potential of adding, altering, modifying some of the language in the bill, and interested parties are working behind the scenes to try to get that language written in a way that is favorable to their position. And so there are a lot of discussions taking place right now to try to bring an exemption to this bill that would allow responsible journalists, members of the news media like us, to be able to get access on this for the very purposes that we're discussing right now.
I mean, and speaking of responsible journalists, we've got our colleague Abby Kasouris. She is the statewide reporter. So she's at the Capitol today and she's working on an in-depth story about this. She'll hear from not just both sides, but all sides. And so we're having this conversation on our streaming desk, but you can bet we will have the conversation on air, online, in our newscast. And she's going to be talking to as many lawmakers and advocates, supporters, and opponents as possible today. And it'll be her story that airs on Atlanta News First.
And the wonderful thing about this process, the democracy that we live in, is that if you're watching this and have a strong feeling about it, one way or the other, you have the ability to contact your representative in the state house. We should also say that there is a bill that has been proposed in the state Senate, which is very similar in its language, that would create a mountain of obstacles for members of the media and the public to get their hands on information that we use every day to report the news and to shed light on the issues that are important to our viewers. And so this is something that's being discussed right now, and it's a way that you can get involved if you'd like to reach out to your local lawmaker, your representative, and let them know your views on this. But again, we are discussing House Bill 1223, which is currently being considered in the House Judiciary Committee here in the State House at the Capitol building in Atlanta. We're going to continue to follow this, of course. Watch for Abby's reports on Atlanta News First. And of course, we'll continue to keep you updated here on ANF Plus. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching ANF Plus. For more breaking news, live coverage, and your community stories, download the Atlanta News First app. You can also watch us on YouTube, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. To join the conversation on YouTube Live, visit our channel and hit subscribe. You can also listen to the Atlanta News First podcast by searching Atlanta News First on your preferred listening platform.